10 months ago, I had a very bad accident that landed me in emergency with a broken neck and a small piece of bone deciding whether to splice my spinal cord. The neurosurgeon asked me, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "I'm a woodwind doubler." "What's that?" "Someone who performs flutes, clarinets and saxophones in the pit of professional music theatre productions." And he thought about that for a while and said, "Okay, then I won't operate, because if I do, there's a high risk that you'll lose all feeling in your hands and feet. We'll put you in a neck brace and we'll hope the bone reattaches itself over time." Why am I smiling? I have since almost recovered, but at the time I was thinking, what am I going to do? There was a strong possibility I would never perform music again. What skills do I have other than performing music? It was depressing, but this career shock wasn't a new experience. Every single musician on the planet was asking those exact same questions when the 2020 pandemic decimated the global live music industry. About a third of musicians in the UK alone considered quitting, and with potential employers completely unaware of their transferable skills, many musicians went and worked as cleaners and food and beverage deliverers. Meanwhile, in Australia, our government did little to support the industry, and the punches kept coming when they decided to raise the arts and humanities degree fees. The message was clearly sent: you are non-essential, we do not value the arts. It seems that music employment does not have comparative economic or societal value. If you disagree, let's see a show of hands. Who here knows of someone who considered a career in the arts but then chose to pursue a more reputable and secure profession? I would suggest that this sentiment is based on misunderstanding and misinformation, and this is largely because a lot of what musicians do is away from the public eye. So David Attenborough could create a docuseries on us. Can you imagine it? What we see here is the nocturnal jazz musician. Don't startle her, she might just disappear backstage. Musicians are often romanticised as the long-suffering turned famous artist right through to the scourge of society, wasting taxpayers' money. But many musicians have never related to these stereotypes. For example, Albert Einstein, he was a professional standard classical violinist, and he took his instrument with him everywhere. He said that playing music freed up his brain to help him work out his theories, like relativity. Australian singer-songwriter Sophie Payton, more commonly known to us as Geordie. She is a medically trained doctor and worked as such during the pandemic. Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden fame was also a commercial airline pilot, very handy for touring the band. And the really amazing thing is that these people and musicians like them don't do these so-called day jobs because music doesn't pay the bills. They have a thirst for lifelong learning and they value skill attainment. A colleague of mine is a professional orchestral cellist and was also a finalist on MasterChef. And when the producers commented how responsive he was to instruction and critical feedback, he just replied, "But that's a big part of what I do. There's always a conductor out the front asking you to play things louder, softer, slower, faster, better." And similar examples of this appeared in pandemic news reports where the non-music employers were impressed with the musicians' work ethic, ability to focus on the task, their reliability and punctuality. And I began thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful if there was more widespread understanding about how musicians' core skills can transfer into other employment sectors? So I initiated a research study on Australian musicians working dual careers. That is, high-quality professional musicians who also work in other professional fields such as IT, health, law, research, and project management. I identified several transferable skills, some unsurprising, such as the ability to work autonomously, work well in teams, and possess great time management. What I didn't expect was they excelled at analysis and attention to detail, otherwise known as analytical thinking. Because of their years of mastery training, musicians' brains are wired differently. They have a larger amount of grey matter, therefore more neuronal pathways and brain activity. As such, their capacity to grasp the complexities of, say, 40-minute symphonies, 3-hour operas, and producing their own shows meant that when problem solving, they were more likely to perceive the bigger picture and the many outcome scenarios. And this brain structure further enables their creativity. A common observation from their co-workers was they offer really creative solutions to intricate problems very quickly, out-of-the-box thinking. And this time-sensitive skill was often attributed to the jazz musicians, the singer-songwriters, and the composers, who by nature of the medium are creators on the fly. You might be thinking, well done, musicians. How is this helpful to the broader population? The 2023 World Economic Forum Future of Jobs survey reported that analytical thinking and creativity are the top 2 most critical skills needed in our AI-impacted future. And we are also going to need to excel at human-centred skills such as communication and leadership. The musicians in my study were very adept at clear communication, but they were also very empathetic to the point that their co-workers would often team them up with the so-called difficult clients. Music making, empathy, it's very valuable. Next time you're at your live event, have a good look at the musicians' non-verbal cues. Not only are they looking at each other, they are listening, responding, and leading on multiple levels. Though curiously, the musicians self-identified as poor leaders, but their co-workers suggested they were servant leaders, or leading by example because they possessed high professional standards that had evolved from the years of mastering their craft and perfecting their music. Overall, this resulted in high quality team outcomes. Such perfectionism can lead to rigidity, but by necessity, musicians have to be flexible and adaptable. What can go wrong, will go wrong, is a common assumption in live performance, and every musician will have their show must go on story to tell. A good friend of mine was playing clarinet in the musical My Fair Lady. What could possibly go wrong? Between Act 1 and 2, her waters broke. Yes, she was pregnant. Now, most people would take themselves off to hospital straight away, but she played through Act 2 in labour. Can you imagine the rest of the band? They're all just going, you know. And then she took herself off to hospital. This persistence and ability to forge ahead regardless is, as we know, an increasingly valuable skill known as resilience. And this resilience, I discovered, present in so many musicians, is founded in their passion for music. And this passion or zest is incredibly infectious in the workplace. Ask a musician what they love about music and they will give you a raft of answers such as, it's my therapy, it's my escape. It's part of being something bigger than yourself. And for some, the perfection is like touching God. And all of this would suggest a sincere lack of ego. You might be thinking, I can think of some pretty egotistical musicians. But in this case, I was outing some of these people to their co-workers saying, do you realise that the person that you're working with is one of Australia's best piano players? No. Do you realise the person you're working with tours with some really famous popular musicians? No, they never told me. The reality is the future of humanity is going to see more pandemics, more geopolitical tensions, and more climate disruption with the need for more innovative solutions to these wicked problems. One of the conundrums the World Economic Forum identified is how do we develop Analytical thinking, creativity, communication, leadership, adaptability, flexibility, and resilience in our future workers. I would argue we already have the solution. To achieve this, we need to move away from the outdated idea of professional musician and rather appreciate and respect what they offer society beyond the art form. Imagine a future where school leavers are encouraged to study music, or even better still, it is government-funded compulsory education in schools. Imagine when the next world crisis comes, and it will come, rather than seeing screeds of musicians leaving the profession, asking those terrible questions, what am I going to do, what skills do I have, employers are incentivised to tap into that rich resource of future relevant skills, thus rewriting the rhetoric to, you are essential. We do value the arts. Thank you for what you can do.